Hi, welcome to the second of our LinkedIn series on the Let Them Theory and Enneagram. I'm Mandy Shoemaker, and I'm here with my friend Jim Gum. Jim, do you want to tell our audience what you do for a living?
Yeah, so I am a coach, and I work with organizations doing team building stuff. My specialty is in the Enneagram. That's kind of how I got started, but I'm just a regular coach too. And how about you, Mandy? Tell about you.
I'm really focusing my time these days in personal development coaching, leadership coaching, helping people who feel overwhelmed and exhausted find peace and abundance and purpose in life. So, and I am doing that also through the lens of the Enneagram, but your Enneagram pool, stock, whatever is much, much deeper than mine. So, for these purposes, I will be the Let Them Theory specialist expert, and Jim will be our Enneagram expert.
Would be great.
So he's just really has a wealth of knowledge, and I have had the wonderful opportunity to learn a lot about Enneagram from Jim as well. So the Let Them Theory is a new book, came out last month by Mel Robbins. It's kind of all the rage if you haven't heard. She put out a podcast kind of laying out her Let Them Theory in like October of 23, like 18 months ago. And it blew up. Millions of people were interested. And so she really started doing some research and ended up writing a book about the Let Them Theory. And what the Let Them Theory is really about is how do we not give up our energy to other people by worrying about what they think, what they do, what they're doing, and ultimately kind of controlling them. Mm-hmm. So it gives us the opportunity to let them, I'm going to let them fill in the blank, whatever. And I'm going to take a minute and let me really have control over myself and be able to respond to the situation in a way that lets me show up as my authentic self. So yeah, so that's really kind of the Let Them Theory in a nutshell. One of the things that I love about the book is that Mel has applied it to a really broad spectrum of life. She's applied it to parenting, to being a child, to work, to marriage, to adult friendships, just so many different areas of life. So if you've listened to the podcast, there is more in the book than is offered in the podcast. So tell us more about Enneagram, Jim.
Well, the Enneagram is it's a personality system that describes 9 distinct ways of how we think, how we feel, and how we act. And what it really is about, like the goal would be to get all 3 of those working together. The truth is some of us think too much, some of us don't think enough, some of us feel too much, some of us don't feel too much, some of us do too much, some of us don't do enough. And it's fairly predictable once you know your type, kind of where you are in personality and where your growth path is.
Yeah, that's something that I really love about Enneagram in comparison to some other personality type of, assessments and systems, is that growth path.
Yeah, it's so powerful.
It's a very, very powerful tool for self-awareness, personal growth, and personal development. Yeah. So today we're talking about the heart types, which are, you want to tell us a little bit about heart types and why Enneagram is grouped into the 3 different centers?
Yeah. So last session we did the body types 8, 9, 1, and those types kind of stand alone in terms of it's kind of about the command and control center, controlling my situation. Heart types are on the right side of the Enneagram, types 2, 3, and 4, and it's a completely different world than the body types. So the heart types, I would say the essence of what makes a heart type is how they are coming across, how they are being received by another person is paramount. And so what happens for heart types, if they're received well, if they're seen, they feel pretty happy. If they're not being received or misunderstood or undervalued, the core emotion that comes with the heart types is they feel sad, depressed, bummed out. And so the dilemma of all the heart types is, and this is kind of the growth path for all of them, is they unconsciously outsource their intrinsic value as a human being to that other person. And you can't control how if someone's going to like you or not, approve of you or not. And so that makes it very precarious and vulnerable for the heart types. I'm a heart type.
The let them theory is very, very, very applicable for heart types.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Their whole world. So, yeah. So the first type we're going to look at is type 2. Mm-hmm. And type 2, in the heart center, in every center, there's a feeler, there's a doer, and a thinker. And in the heart center, the 2 is the feeler. In the feeling center, lots of feelings with 2s. And so what they do is they are super sensitive and tuned in. They're warm, they're empathetic, they're sacrificial. It's the feminine archetype, and they sense needs, and they would love to meet needs, which they're really good at. But what they really want is to be seen, and they want that connection. So that's their default way to kind of connect with others, see them, connect with them, do something for them.
Yes, I actually have been working with quite a number of 2s, and just notice as they build awareness around how much value they place on what other people think, and how we tend to, if we don't hear, kind of a real trap for 2s is if we don't hear back from somebody pretty quickly, 2s will fill it in with something negative. I mean, a lot of people will, but 2s will just assume that if somebody didn't say, oh, that was awesome, thank you so much for helping me, thank you for doing that for me, that was just what I wanted, they assume that it was bad.
Yeah. And part of it too is the unconscious nature of how the 2 attaches a string to the gift.
Correct.
And it's called giving to get. And they don't know they're doing this, but the other person will sense it. And they don't want to get into power, always being one down, differential or whatever. And so that's just they're the best at helping.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
Right.
However, like all of our strengths, when overdone, they're a problem.
Absolutely. So how do 2s let them? Or no, I take that back. How do we let 2s be 2s?
Yeah. So what the let them theory means, if I'm working with a 2, is we're going to need to let them be persistent when you say no. They're going to want to be helpful, involved, included. And you need to just, if you don't want them to help, don't need their help, want to do it on your own, thank you very much, I don't need anything. They can be very persistent. And so sometimes in the unhealthiest way, they're nosy prying, that you can't do this without me type of energy.
Right.
And so you're going to have to be, use your boundary word. No, that's okay. I still love you.
Right. We still want to give them lots of positive feedback. You are very helpful. Thank you for seeing what I might need.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Second thing I would say is let them process everything through their emotions. Sometimes tears come quickly. It's okay that you are maybe more practical or rational. Let them be emotional. Doesn't mean if they're crying, doesn't mean you did anything wrong.
Right.
That's just kind of the lens. They're a feeler in the feeling center, and they feel emotions around them, and they feel others' needs in their bones. They just have a radar up for, they have a need, I'm going to hone in on it.
And I'm the one that can save them because I'm the one that senses that need.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Third thing I would say is, in terms of the emotion, let them be sad when they're not taken up on their offer. And so one of the things that happens is every type kind of has a neurotic need, and the twos is the need to be needed. You know, and so when they feel like they aren't needed, they might be a little bummed out, but that's their work. That's not for you to
let them be bummed out.
Yeah. So that's the twos on the let them theory.
It's really hard for a 7, which is me, to let somebody else be bummed out, because I don't like negative feelings. I don't like discomfort.
You don't like the unhappy.
Yeah. I want everybody to just be happy like me all the time.
Yeah, and it is, and so, and for the 7, it's like you, when someone's unhappy, doesn't mean it's going to stick to you. You know, that's the fear of the 7. Oh, you want that happiness to touch me.
Right? Yeah, I'm happy. Oh, that was funny. All right, so those are 3 good ways that we can let our 2 friends be 2s, our 2 loved ones and friends. Do we want to go on to 3s and talk about how we can let them be 3s?
Yeah. So the 3 is called the achiever, or, they're accomplished, they're efficient, they're adaptable, they're the doer in the feeling center. And the archetype is of the false self, because their passion is deceit or vanity. And unfortunately, I have to say that's my type. And
there's no unfortunateness in any type. They're all good, all the same.
That is correct. But that sense of not being received, I think, is what brought me to, like, I got to look at this Enneagram stuff.
Yeah.
So, anyway. So what does a let them mean if this person is a 3? First thing I'd say is let them keep going when you don't want to. So they typically have a huge capacity. I have a friend who says his neighbors call him the Energizer Bunny. He's like, you're making us look bad. Now, the downside of that for the 3, and it's also what brought me to the Enneagram, was workaholism. And it's the false sense of I am what I do, and that's that part of that heart type, is really difficult for them. So if you're with a 3 and they seem to be able to work longer, go longer, and it's like, oh, we'll let them, that's how they're going to feel okay. They don't know why they're doing that, but it's okay if you don't want to do that.
Right. Yes, I'm very close to a 3 and had to learn that as well, for sure.
So the second thing is, because of that adaptable, efficient thing, let them be impatient when you need to take your time or you're not in a hurry. So the 3s have a little bit of, I know the best way to do this. Come on, let's do this. And you don't have to go at their speed. There's a little bit of the 3, even though they're in the middle of the heart center. When you're in the middle of a center, you're kind of out of touch with that core emotion. And so the 3s are in the middle of the feeling center, but they shut down their feelings to get more done. It's kind of a paradox of that.
Sure.
So sometimes they're not going to clue in to your emotional state or what's going on behind the scene. They might not pick up on the emotional cues, and it'll show up as impatience or aggravation or, all that.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. Third thing yeah. Hopefully I'm growing past that, but this just takes the rest of my life. The third thing is let them believe they have the solution, because they are problem solvers and they can see it so quickly. Let them believe they have the solution, even if you want to keep your options open. They'll be confident. They go, this is the way to do it, and unfortunately in unhealth, they'll be like, you're stupid if you don't do it this way. But, a lot of people don't work at that pace.
Right. And I think sometimes you just have to let them work that solution out of their system And then maybe if you had a different idea, they might come back to you and say, well, that one didn't work. So what did you say before?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But their confidence of, they are accomplished. And so and their currency is I get more done. It's kind of like the old, was it the Marines? We get more done by 6 a.m. than most people do in a day. That's a
Right.
little bit of the threes currency.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
and so their need is to feel successful.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's driving them. They
Yeah.
need to have a win. If they have a day when they didn't get anything done, it's so tied up with their worth, they don't know who they are.
Right. Productivity, getting things done is what gives me value and identity and yes.
Yeah.
So
on the other hand, if you need something done, it's
a 3 is a great person to do to have around. Absolutely.
And the unfortunate thing sometimes is in the workplace, other people can take advantage of 3s.
Mm-hmm.
They can expect a lot from them. And the 3 is, they'll be on that treadmill of trying to please somebody, that other person. And they'll get that person to overwork. And the 3 will overwork to please that person.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
All right. Any other ways we can let 3s be 3s?
Oh, there probably are a myriad.
We did.
Those are the 3 that I think are.
Yes, that we have for today. Okay. What about 4s?
4s. Okay.
I actually have a super soft spot for 4s.
Yeah. 4s are great. They're all great. The 4s are, believe it or not, a lot of people think the 4s are the feeler in the feeling center. They're the thinker. They're the thinker in the feeling center. And the reason I say that, they're very much curating how they want to be seen in the world. And that is a thought process, not a feeling process.
Right. Oh, we got to clip that one out and post that one. That's
it's the whole package, how they look, their interests, all of that is thought through and curated. Now, why they're seen as the emotional one in the feeling center is because they tend to be dramatic and have access to all the highs of the 7, but also they can go low and they can be with other people that are low. And that's kind of their favorite spot is just a little bit below average or a little bit below I'm feeling fine.
Right.
It's like, and part of that is that longing for something unique. So they're authentic, they're intuitive, they're idealistic, and it's this need to feel special. That is kind of the characteristic piece of 4ness.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. So how do we let 4s be 4s?
Yeah. So if you're working with a 4, you can let them have their drama without entering it or entertaining it. They probably most likely will have a reaction to
if you don't step into it. Yes.
Yeah. They're going to have a reaction. You're going to see the reaction. They tend to be dramatic in how they see their life, this tumult. But you can let them have their drama. You don't have to be part of it. Second thing I would say is they're going to want to be different. And you can allow them to be different without you don't need to call any attention to it. You don't need to say, wow, look at that hair. You don't have to do that. And, whatever it might be that is what they're curating to be different about.
You had said, talking about commercials, one of my favorite commercial series is it's insurance and it's not being your parents. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And when the
Dr.
people
Wick.
with the blue hair are in the hardware store or whatever, and they're walking through and they go, blue, blue.
Don't
And
look.
right. And I feel like fours are kind of going for that reaction a lot
Yeah.
of times, you know.
I heard Ian Morgan Cron say that, and he's a 4. He said
He's a
they
4,
enjoy
yeah.
the second glance, like the
Yeah.
double take, like they want to be seen or noticed for that. And that's that thing where you're, that other person is weighing into who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Am I
Yeah.
helpful? Am I successful? Am I different?
Am I different? Yeah.
And you can't do those things without the other person.
Right. I was just going to say, those don't come from inside typically.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
they don't have as much reality or weight. So the third thing I'd say for what the let them thing for the 4 is, let them be upset at others' good fortune, talent, or success. And that goes back to the envy piece. They need to feel or be special. And so they're really noticed if somebody else does well. And envy is the sense of, I'm sad when others are successful. Schadenfreude is, I'm happy when you fail, which is a shadow friend, very dark. It's the other side of envy. And there's this thing that happens in the heart types, and the 2 and the 4 are kind of opposite. So the 4 tends to, put them, measure themselves to somebody else, that other, and then they put themselves down. The 2, well, I'm definitely a better person because I'm always helpful and I'm a giver.
Yes. And where the vice of the 2 is pride.
Right.
That, here, look at me. I'm doing all these things for other people. I'm, I think it's interesting, as I was working with a 4 who, she just kept, she has all these, she's an MD and has all these degrees and all these other certifications. And it's just that whole idea of comparison.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that they talk a lot about, that Mel talks about, that I love in the let them theory, is that comparison can torture us or teach us.
Wow. I love that.
And so interestingly, this person that I was working with, she had this process of, she'd see like somebody else having that success that she perceived she was not having, because the 4s always feel like they don't quite have, like there was missing something, right?
Yeah.
And so she's like, I'll go into my cocoon and sort of mope about it for a minute. And then I'll be like, okay, well, I've got all these things too. And I can, and then, so she had really found a way to, she couldn't completely rid herself of just a little bit of torture. But then she really described really in depth how she was turning comparison around to be a teacher for her. And anyway, I just thought that was pretty cool. And I think people, any type can have comparison become torture or teacher. So.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. I think that's just the nature of our culture at this point.
It is. And, part of it is, the curated lives that we put out on social media. And, when you put it in this little Instagram box, you don't see the rest of everything that's going around.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's really hard.
So does that cover it for how we
that covers it?
Let everybody be everybody? All right.
We're going to let the 2s and 3s and 4s. And this is kind of in personality. Just let them do their thing and
let them do what they have to do. Yeah.
But
that whatever they're doing doesn't have to be about me.
No. And you don't need to solve it, figure it out, unless they are curious and want to ask about it. You might go, hey, you might think about, but for the most part, what happens with the Enneagram is these are fairly predictable things that are going to happen. So let them do that.
Yes, predictable patterns.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, so let's flip it back.
Yeah.
And the thing that I think is so important, and I probably a lot of our viewers today might know, I'm leading a book club on the Let Them theory.
Yeah.
And it's the format of the book club that I'm doing for this year is that we read the book 1 month, and then we discuss how we're putting it into practice the following month. And so in January, we had our what do we think about the Let Them theory kind of conversation. And talked a lot about let them. And so for February, we're really going to focus on strategies to let me.
Oh, I love it.
So, and how do I even, a lot of times where we think what the Enneagram really shows us is how the things that trigger us, what are our really quick actions and reactions.
Yeah.
And if we can stop and kind of soothe ourselves and calm our nervous system, it gives us the opportunity to let me make the choice that I really want to make.
Yeah.
In terms of how I really want to show up. So,
yes.
So how can our 2s, 3s, and 4s work on letting me show up?
If I'm a 2, what does let me look like? If I'm a 3,
Yeah.
what does let me look like? Yeah. And so what happens in this a little bit, and this is the essence of the Enneagram, we kind of have our self and personality, which is our reactive self. But all the Enneagram types have a growth path and trying to get to our essential self, our unreactive, our responsive self. And so these let me is kind of how do I grow out of this typical reaction if I'm that way? So what does it mean to let me if you're a 2 is really the question we're asking. Mm-hmm. So I think the first one, the biggest one I think for a 2 is let me be okay to receive. And so one thing I notice is just there's always an imbalance, and they're great at helping. But the downside of that is healthy relationships have reciprocity. The love you take is equal to the love you make, as the Beatles said.
Yeah.
You have this back and forth sense. And so it's okay to receive, and not just receive, but you are now not obligated to do something to pay back or to pay back double.
Right.
I'm down 1. And I got to go.
I always have to be up 1. So I'm
consciously up 1.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the sneaky thing about how the pride shows up. How could I be prideful? I'm so generous with all my time, and so it's okay to receive.
Mm-hmm.
There's seasons in life when I'm giving, and there's seasons in life where I need to receive, and I don't need to feel guilty about that. I don't need to pay back anything. So that's the first one on the let me. Second one I think is let me do something selfish. So it's normal to have things that you want to do or that you want to pursue that are only a benefit to you. And sometimes when a 2 is asked, well, what do you want? What do you want to do here? It's just kind of like a blank screen. They've been thinking about the other person, what they need, and meeting that need, other person meeting that need. And so when they finally get that question turned around, it's like, there's nothing there.
Right.
I don't know what I'm feeling. I don't even know what I'm needing, because I've put not only my worth, but I've kind of put myself out there, and I've lost touch with me.
Right.
So it's super healthy for a 2 to have their own interests, their own me time, and it's normal. It's not indulgent. It's called being a normal human being.
Right. Right. And that's, I'm working with some people who they're like, needs? I don't have any needs. What do you mean?
Yes,
What do I need?
right.
Why would I have a need?
Right. And sometimes I think as a coach, you have to come back to that. No, what would you really like to do? What
Right.
do you
And it's
really want?
okay. It's right. Yes,
Yeah, you don't
absolutely.
have to feel guilty about it. It doesn't have to be a exception. It's like, no, this is a normal thing. Third thing I'd say, let me help from a pure heart. And that's, the twos are the greatest helpers. And I had a friend who said it this way. She goes, somebody's in trouble, or they're having a hard time, maybe a health thing or a family thing or a death or something. And you leave them this message. You go, hey, just let me know if you need anything.
Right.
Which sounds helpful, which is not helpful. And this two said, no. You initiate the help. No one's
Right.
going to go, gosh, I wish you'd really bring me a meal right now because I don't want to cook. That just doesn't happen.
Right.
However, it's the overdoing of the helping that gets the two in trouble. So one of the things with the Enneagram is like, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You are a great helper.
Exactly.
You are a great helper, but do it always and check that. Am I expecting anything in return?
Exactly.
And if I
And
am, yeah, go ahead.
Just what I've experienced with twos too is that there's this, I shouldn't want anything in return.
Yeah.
So then it's really hard to think, well, maybe I do. And what seems to me to happen is they end up with a big pile of resentments in their
Oh,
lap
yeah.
that they
And
don't even know. And so if there can just be this awareness
yeah.
that it is okay to give, just and what you get back isn't necessarily, they don't necessarily want something big, but just to recognize, to be aware of that really sets them free.
Yeah, it does. It does. And that's what a gift is. There's no strings attached. It's a free gift.
Yes.
And that helps them check their pride too. So don't give up giving.
Right.
Give up strings attached giving. Meet real needs. Don't create needs that somebody doesn't have that you think you're meeting. That's where a two gets themselves in trouble.
Yeah.
Okay. For the three, moving on to that.
Yes.
Achiever, doer. What does it mean to let me, if you're a three, let me admit my mistakes? So since the currency is success, achievement, if you hide all those from everybody else, you are presenting a false self and you're just not a human.
Mm-hmm.
To err is human. To make mistakes is human. To own your mistakes, to go, man, I really failed at this. I'm not good at this. That type of energy is what's really needed to undo that threeness thing.
Well, and I think I'm not good at this, so I'm going to block it out. Versus I'm not good at this and I'm still going to keep it a part of my life.
Or let others know that I'm not good. I don't need to hide that. I don't need to hide my weaknesses.
Yeah.
The second thing I'd say, and I remember I was doing youth ministry and a student said to me, man, I had no idea you were so competitive. And it was like, oh, my competitiveness is showing. And part of it is let me celebrate others' wins. I don't need to win everything. Life isn't a competition. There's plenty of room. There's plenty of opportunity, but I don't need to put everything into this zero-sum game of winners and losers. So that's a big thing. And the three and the four, deal a little bit with that. The way these types are, your wing plays in a little bit. There's sometimes envy in other people's success that happens. Like, why wasn't that me? The third thing I think is the hugest let me be okay with rest and relaxation. So if I'm inactive, then do I not, if a 3 does nothing in the woods, can they be heard? Do they exist? And the truth
Right.
is, yes, they exist. And it's part of that outsourcing my intrinsic value as a human. If I am going to be valuable only if somebody says this or that to me, and I don't want that, so I'm going to work so hard to get this.
Yeah.
If that's the only measure, I am so vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so precarious. Your self-worth, and especially for me as a Christian, as a believer, our intrinsic worth has nothing to do with our achievement.
Right. Right.
As child of God, you are perfect, beloved. Yeah. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to work for me. I don't need to work for God.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You can just do nothing.
You can just do your thing. You just be the person.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of that is, learning to be okay with rest and relaxation. It doesn't mean that suddenly your value has gone down. It's like, normal people take naps. Normal people goof around. Not everything has to be work related.
Mm-hmm.
So
good stuff.
Yeah, big stuff.
All right. So how about 4s?
Okay. For the 4, what does it mean to let me if you're 4? And so I would say, let me have my emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm really good at it. And, there's an old adage that a lot of people, especially 3s, only have 3 emotions: mad, sad, glad. They don't have a range of emotions. The 4s have everything, like confused,
Yeah. Yeah.
All that stuff. And let me have my emotions. And the challenge is not becoming my emotion. I can have them. It's really my strength is I'm sensitive, and that's good about me. If somebody says, "Oh, you're too emotional," it's like, no, that's your giftedness. You're going to feel things more than anybody else, and you're emotionally intuitive. That's a wonderful thing.
Mm-hmm.
Let me have them. That's okay. Secondly, I'd say, let me be okay with being ordinary, and let me be okay with routine. Every day doesn't need to be a unique adventure. What makes you laugh about that?
Well, that there's a little bit of 7.
Yes, there is.
Yes. But just that whole idea. So the virtue for 4s is equanimity.
Mm-hmm.
So just letting the balance be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay. And partly, the truth is much of our life is fairly routine, and ordinary and day to day, but that's okay. That's okay. It doesn't change. It doesn't make you not a 4. I think it would be exhausting to make every moment of your day unique and special.
Right.
And I think partly what makes things unique and special is that there's ordinary time.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that contributes, I'm just sort of connecting some dots here, to that feeling of that there's always something missing, that if it's not extraordinary or special, there's something missing.
There's something missing, and I've lost interest.
Yeah.
But a lot of things happen. Even if you look at the liturgical calendar, there's Advent and Epiphany and Lent, and then the rest of the year is ordinary time.
Yeah, right.
If we were singing Christmas carols all year round, boy, would it be a bummer.
Right. You get a little tired of that.
Yeah, some people can't stand it in December.
Right.
So lastly, I would say, let me enjoy someone else's creativity without it taking away from my own. It's not a threat. There's plenty of room for you to be creative, and I can be happy at another's creativity and be inspired by it and go, what a great expression. And I don't have to say, oh, what a great expression. Why didn't I do that? What a great expression, to compare and to put yourself down.
Yeah.
And then I think lastly is just let me believe that I'm special, that's a great thing. Like everyone else is special.
Right.
We're all special, but
Yeah.
it's fine to believe you're special, but it should be all of us.
Yeah.
3s are special. 7s are special. 8s
Right.
are special.
7s feel special all the time.
Yeah. You know, one of my friends who was a 4, you know, when she found out about the 4, her first thought was, I think I must be the only 4 I know, you know. And then the saddest day for the 4 is when they meet another 4. And it's just,
You mean I'm not the only one?
yeah. One of my friends who's a therapist said, I was so excited about the Enneagram when I read about it, then I found out I was just an ordinary 4. That's fairly typical of the 4. So that's what I have.
Yeah. So great. So great. I think that these two things combined, you know, the whole with this, the energy behind the let them theory, and, you know, the Enneagram is really an ancient tool, although it is experiencing kind of you know, a lot of people are pretty interested in Enneagram right now as well.
Yeah.
And I just think that, you know, let them plus Enneagram. And if I understand my type and I understand the types of other people, I can let them a whole lot easier, and I can let me really be my authentic self.
Yes.
And it's kind of, we had said this before, but interestingly, somebody in our book club, and talking about the let them theory, said, you know what, really it's freedom.
Yeah.
And I think it is. And I see that in Enneagram as well. Yeah. And when people say, you know, oh, I don't want to be put in a box. Well, really what Enneagram does is it shows you where the walls are and how you can open them up and step out of that box if you really choose to. And I think that's the whole, if I can just let them and then let me really think about who I am and what I want to be. If the box is good, that's fine. But if the box isn't suiting me right now, then, or if it's creating some conditions in my life that aren't working, then I have the opportunity to step outside of that. And so it gives me choice and freedom and really better quality of life.
That's right. And really growth in the Enneagram is catching yourself in the act.
Yep.
It's like, okay, this is how I normally will react. This is my automatic autopilot. This is my factory settings.
Yeah.
But I have an option. I can customize this, you know, and it's going to be for my growth. It's going to be for my benefit, my own happiness and contentment. It's actually going to be me expressing who I was always meant to be.
Right. Not who I've kind of been molded to be by my lived experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So cool. Well, it's always a pleasure.
It is.
To be with you.
Likewise.
And I think, we're just about up on our time. So our next one is February 21st, right?
Is it the 21st? I think it might be the 28th.
28th, a week after that.
Yeah, it's going to be the 28th for me.
It's the 28th. It is. I was wrong.
Okay. I planned something on the 21st. But so, you know, just once again, you know, Mandy's working with people. She's coaching, team building, really interested in the Enneagram. And that's also what I do. I even work with couples. I kind of backed into that where, will you help me get along with, you know,
right?
Because those two patterns,
I don't get them.
Yeah, they don't. But, you know, the hope is that basically, what does the Enneagram help you do? It helps me grow in self-awareness. This is how I'm made. And helps me grow in compassion.
Yeah.
For others that are not like me. And your type is needed 1/9 of the time.
Right.
And those other types are needed 8/9 of the time. And everybody you're working with, your family members, your partner probably is a different type than you. And so we shouldn't be fighting it.
Right.
Be a sad
Right.
world if we were all alike, wouldn't it be?
It would be. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I look
Love
forward to
it.
doing this again. It's been great.
All right.
Yeah.
Super. So we'll see you guys later.
Okay.
Hey, bye.
Bye.